Hello, my name is Austin Williams, and this is my commentated analytical playthrough of the Talos Principle. I'll take a couple minutes to give a scripted intro explaining this project and what to expect from it, but if you'd like to skip straight to the gameplay, you can go to the timestamp on the screen. Firstly, spoiler warning for the Talos Principle and the Road to Gehenna DLC, and minor spoiler warning for the Talos Principle 2 demo content. The goal of this playthrough is for me to revisit the Talos Principle, a game I've already played, with the goal of commenting on and analyzing it in terms of game design, art, and story. I make this project with the assumption that the viewer is already familiar with the game and has played through it at least once. I mostly talk about what's in front of me as I progress through the game, but if you haven't played it before, you'll hear me reference and make connections to later content that you won't know about yet, so please be aware of that if you do decide to watch this before playing the game yourself. I decided to make this project because the Talos Principle is a game that means a lot to me. I first played it back when I was in high school, and it stuck with me for a long time afterward. Its story resonated with me, its discussion of philosophy prompted me to think deeply in ways I hadn't really done before, and its writing and presentation influenced my own approach to storytelling. I think this game is a fantastic example of using the medium of a video game to tell a story. If someone asks me to argue why video games are art, and I do believe video games are art, the Talos Principle is one of the examples I would give. I was inspired in part because the sequel, the Talos Principle 2, is scheduled to release very close to when I plan to upload the first part of this playthrough. I'm going to play that game as soon as I can, and probably try to make a proper video essay analyzing it. Having a recent memory of playing through the first game will certainly help as I approach the second, both as a fan and with a critical lens. I want to advise you that this is my first time making this kind of video project, so the quality may be a bit lower than you're used to as a viewer. I'm doing my best to clean it up as I go through and edit, but expect the occasional weird audio, background noise, sloppy visuals, etc. I welcome any feedback on ways to improve my production quality for future projects. I will try to keep these videos well paced, cutting parts where I'm not making progress in gameplay or saying anything interesting. Also, while I intended to approach this game purely from an analytical perspective, I did come across a lot of things in my playthrough that I didn't remember, so there will be some surprise and reactions mixed in with the thoughtful commentary. There are also points where my comments are silly or surface level, rather than deep or analytical. Hopefully there's a balance there. A suggestion for your viewing experience: if you have your copy of Talos on hand, you might go back and do a playthrough yourself as you watch this video, playing the game along with me as I talk about it. This way we can go through the game together, and if you want to explore some part of the game I don't go to or put much focus on, you can pause, do that, then unpause and continue along with me. Of course, if you just want to watch me, or even keep me in another window as you do something else, that's fine too. Enjoy these videos however you like. If you want to know a bit about me, my name is Austin Williams. Among other things, I consider myself a writer. I like doing creative things. I've written a novel I hope to get published. I participate in local theater. I write short stories and plays on occasion. I got my degree in writing, so that's really my area of focus and what I love to talk about. One last thing, if you're so inclined, please share your own thoughts about the game in the comments. I love discussing my favorite stories, and I'd love to hear from anyone who stumbles upon these videos about what parts of this game had an effect on you, what you liked, or maybe what you disliked. Let me hear from you. With all that out of the way, let's begin. I hope you enjoy. Alright, let's get started. So from here on, it's going to be pretty stream of consciousness as I go through this game. I'm going to talk about whatever's right in front of me, but the game's long, there's plenty of time to talk, so we will get through it all. This intro cutscene is communicating a lot of information very quickly. We see the console text in front of the sea of clouds we're floating over. That all has a lot of meaning packed into it, but we don't have time to talk about it right now. Our main character, whose canonical name, I believe, is Athena, wakes up with no information, and then God says,
"Behold, child, you are risen from the dust, and you walk in my garden. Hear now my voice, and know that I am your maker, and I am called Elohim. Seek me in my temple, if you are worthy."
And supposing we are worthy, we move on. As far as intros go, I like this one. It sort of drops you right in and has you kind of figure out what's going on. You have to take in, or well, you naturally take in the environment, everything around you, and you kind of get a feel for what this game is. This is a great game to play blind because the pieces are kind of weird when you don't have context for them, and the process of just putting it together, I don't know, I think it's fun and cool. Because, like, obviously we're a robot, and yet we're here among what seem to be ancient Greek or Roman ruins, with all these tech and barriers and such. And again, the text on the screen reminding us that we're computers and that we're calibrating ourselves. It's just these clashing elements are constantly present throughout the game, but the thing is, for me at least, it's very easy to quickly forget about the clash between, like, you know, the anachronism of a Gatling gun and a mine amidst these ancient ruins. It just becomes, you know, these are the components of this world, and it feels natural. But it's a unique aesthetic. I don't see a lot of games or things in general that kind of clash elements like this, and this one's able to do it because of the context we're in. But I'm going to try not to slow down to talk too much. This intro is very easy to get through very quickly if you're familiar. I'm just going to try to get through it at decent speed. This is the first QR code we see from @. I love these little notes. They add...
All across this land, I have created trials for you to overcome. And within each, I have hidden a sigil. It is your purpose to seek these sigils, for thus you will serve the generations to come and attain eternal life.
Eternal life is the most loaded phrase in the whole game. Because in a sense that's accurate, but in another sense it's very much not. Elohim always speaks in these have-truths skewed to suit him. Here's a note from One with Faith. We get to know each of these bots leaving behind these QR code notes. As the game goes on, we get these little flashes of character from these other programs who have come through here. They each have personalities. @ and One with Faith are both just as confused as we would be if we weren't already very familiar with the game, just trying to figure out what this place is and what anything means. Here's our first puzzle. A switch out of reach. Very common for the names to describe the puzzle. There's a switch, it's out of reach, there's a gun. What do we do? Well, we take the first puzzle element we were tutorialized, the jammer, and we've already learned, by having to figure out how to get past the mine and the gun before, that jammers are basically remote off switches. Anything that has an on state, a jammer sets it to the off state. There are no text box tutorials explaining how how everything works beyond the basic UI. Press this button to interact. You have to figure out how the puzzles work by playing around with these elements and experimenting with them, and using visual cues to just determine how everything works, how you progress. This game does make great use of text, but not for tutorials. I kind of like that, even if it does mean you can occasionally get stuck because...
The shapes you are collecting are not mere toys. They are the sigils of our name. Each brings you closer to eternity.
Okay, I did say no text tutorials, but it does straight up tell you what the sprint button is. One mark against this game might be that some of the controls aren't fully explained. I did a custom mapping of my remote. There's an alternative use button that is not mapped by default, but has a unique function, which is so bizarre. There's a function called secondary fire, which is what you would think the alternative use is. It's just another use button. So... if there's a mark against this game, it's not fully explaining the controls, but they do tell you how to sprint. Outnumbered. All these early puzzles are just quickly tutorializing game mechanics. This one, jamming a barrier, and then unjamming it to suit your advantage. So now the barrier keeps the mine out of the way, we jam the gun, and we can go right through. Again, very basic puzzles to start with, just to demonstrate these early game mechanics.
Well done, child. Only one more sigil is needed.
Elohim is doing a lot of hand-holding in this early stage. Helping both you, the player, I guess, but also in-universe, just trying to establish his, role as a mentor, paternal kind of figure to basically earn your trust. Yeah, you're gonna hear that sound a lot. The mines are as annoying as they need to be.
My temple awaits you, child. Go forth.
It's really fun to disobey Elohim. He always has a line when he tells you to do something and then you don't do it. It doesn't happen a whole lot, but when you're able to just ignore his instructions, he gets real upset.
My child, you do not need to collect all sigils at once. You are free to return to this place whenever you choose.
So he says, but for the way I like to play, I like to knock out all the sigils when I'm there, especially on a repeat playthrough. It is nice that you can skip puzzles and come back to them later for your first time playthrough. And I think that's a design philosophy the Talos Principle 2 will expand upon with the skip mechanic that it has. This puzzle is the one that introduces you to double jamming, so you can basically jam the same thing twice to keep it jammed when you pull your jammer to go jam something else. That's how you walk your jammers through barriers. Important concept to have, so they nail it down early. One more puzzle before we walk through our first sigil gate, I guess is what we call them. Sigil door, sigil gate. The barriers you get through with the sigils. Sigils of our name, Elohim called them. I don't know why he called them sigils of our name, because I don't think you can spell Elohim with the Tetris pieces. Correct me if I'm wrong. I wonder if he meant a different name. I guess you could make an H with two T's, right? And then an E... I guess any letter composed of straight lines you can make with the I pieces, but that's clunky and ugly. Yeah, there is going to be a little bit of rambling as we go on.
You are most diligent. Perhaps this trait will serve you well in times to come.
This is not an analysis in the sense of, like, I'm constructing, an argument and making cohesive points in paragraph form. It's more like I'm just talking about the game as I go through it. So, it's going to be a scattered collection of thoughts. Sigil puzzles. These get way worse. I like them, but I also don't like them. They're a mixed bag. One with Faith does not take long to immediately become an Elohim loyalist. Love that. And @ is just kind of hanging out. Already getting distracted. I'll have more to say about those characters as we go on. Speaking of characters... No, don't reset. The Milton Library Assistant. Hi. Hello world. And we type help. Get our commands. We can do... Let's do the Milton assistant first. And then we can read the files afterward. That's normally going to be the order. Hello guest, how can I help you today? Yeah, so this is the closest we get to ever having any kind of conversation. Just these little tiny hints of personality in this first dialogue. Won't antagonize him just yet. I really do enjoy these little sections of back and forth. There's a chance to get some background information. So Milton helps to establish things in less grandiose terms than Elohim does. Helps the whole thing feel a little more grounded. And yeah, vast majority of the library is corrupted, which tells you that this has been running for a long time. You said 999 years, which seems to indicate some kind of max out. Like 10,000 was the cap for some reason. Ask about the data corruption, and then my favorite set of questions. Who is Elohim? Elohim is the noun for God, or gods in modern ancient Hebrew. Where am I? You are currently in a support session with the MLA Human Language Interface module. Your library archive session may be resumed at any time. What am I? You are logged in with a guest account. I love this little jerk. I'll try to keep my language to a minimum. I called him something else. And then we can just kind of test him a little more. You cannot insult me. So yeah, the core of the game is the puzzles, but there's a lot to do in your downtime. You can explore the world, and you can read through these archives, which this is really half the game right here. As far as story and world building and context, you get a lot of it just at these terminals. First file you're likely to read is the one titled Welcome. And this one kind of gives some context for Alexandra Drennan, who she is, and what her role is. So introducing that idea. Athena 6. The word Athena comes up a lot, and so it kind of makes sense that Athena ended up being the canonical name for the character we're playing. When I refer to this character, I'll sometimes refer to them as Athena, sometimes just as our character. Let's continue. I have my Steam notifications beeping in the background. I'll turn those off. Oh no, that's Discord, sorry. Turn Discord off. Athena in the Garden of Hesperides. A single golden apple. So this is a little story featuring Greek characters, but it seems to be an allusion also to the Apple of Eden. So kind of tying in the Greek symbols with the Christian or Hebrew symbols. Apple of Eden, apple of deathlessness. One more message. I'm actually not sure what to make of this one. I know some of these emails have hex text that you can decode. I don't know if this is one of them. I'm not going to know every bit of hex from memory, and I'm also not going to take a detour to decode them. If you know a relevant decoding, please let me know in the comments. If there's anything worth expanding upon as far as stuff you can't decipher. Because I'm seeing the subject line like F6E, like, that's not English, maybe that's a code. Or maybe it's just garbled. A lot of it is just garbled. And yeah, just a heartwarming message from a parent. That phrase, "you've got loads of time," makes it seem like it was sent before the big bad thing happened. Interesting then that this made it into the archives, because most of the things come from after that happened. Oh, and the journal. I love this. I love that it's easy to go back through all the texts you've seen, and later on all the audio logs you've collected as well. Just as you collect them, you keep them. It's good. And I know Talos 2 is going to have a more expanded journal system. I like that too. Just kind of having the whole story in your back pocket to look back over. So we call that schmuck bait. Because if you didn't double jam this mine and you pulled this, you would die instantly. Actually, I'm just going to do that for fun. Just for old time's sake. Like I'm a new player. I don't know what I'm doing. Boop.
The guardians of this land may harm you, but do not resent them. For they are my servants, and they challenge you only so that your faith might be strengthened.
This feels a bit like an abusive relationship. So, jam everything we need to jam and grab the sigil.
Step into the light, child, and my temple will be revealed to you.
See, you could, but then you would be skipping the sigil and you'd have to come back, and that's not very efficient, is it? Last puzzle of the first world. Nothing really new here, just kind of reinforcing this idea of using barriers to your advantage by jamming and unjamming them. And there is also a star sigil that hasn't been collected yet. I'm not going to be going through and collecting all the star sigils for this playthrough. If I see one that I feel like is within reach, I'll try to get it, and I'll talk about them more when that happens. But for right now, it's just a if I feel like it kind of thing.
You walk now upon the stones of my temple, whence many gates lead. And know that I have other temples, for my garden is greater than your eye can encompass. And all these worlds I made for you.
So the first of 3 temples, this one with that ancient Hellenic architecture feel. We can sit here briefly and look around before we venture on into World 2, so we'll get ready for that. Okay, ready to resume. I did just take a moment to go back and review my recording so far. Actually, hang on. Okay. Alright, ready to resume. I did just take a moment to go back and look over my recording so far, make sure everything's working okay. Sorry about the controller noises, and also my mouth noises to an extent. Like I said, I don't have the most robust recording setup right now,
This be our covenant.
but hopefully it's good
Worlds
enough.
are yours, and you are free to walk amongst them and subdue them. But the great tower, there you may not go. For in the day that you do, you shall surely die.
So yeah, big Garden of Eden parallel there. The tower is the apple. List. And so here's Milton kind of jerking us into another interaction. And get a little bit of information. Enter the password. I think none of these will work. Yeah. Okay, so here's the first fun bit with Milton. Well, it's all fun, but this is like fun. So Milton says it's developing a psychometric profile, meaning it's going to do like a psychanalysis, and we have to answer slightly complicated questions. And he wants us to go fast, so 2 + 2 is 4. Got that one. I wonder what happens if I answered that one wrong. Content sounds good. Describes a person, rational animal. Water for the thirsty man. And we have more files. Frank to some relatives. This file introduces us to the Institute for Applied Noematics, which is definitely a name that some nerds came up with. And yeah, like the file says, geek behavior. The game really goes out of its way to show the humanity of these researchers and the important people involved. A lot of sci-fi can kind of like put the especially talented or important people at like a distance, or kind of elevate them somewhat to be like beyond, I guess, the typical person, but all the scientists in this game are people first. Even Alexandra Drennan is a person first. Much as she might wish otherwise. Well, not wish otherwise, but act otherwise. I'm reading a different note. So this is literary analysis of, what is it? Another Athena story. Which I guess means that I'm doing literary analysis of literary analysis, except that I don't really have much to say about this one. And finally, Talos Principle.text. This is one we're supposed to pay attention to. A text about the idea of a machine having all the essential properties of a human, which is kind of at the core of what's going on here, what our character Athena is or is trying to be. What does it mean to be human? What does it take to be human? What does that imply? That's kind of one of the major themes being explored here. if this game is about anything, it's about humanity, which anything being about humanity is going to automatically be a little pretentious, but I still like it. I like this game. Because you can't really make any statement that applies universally to humanity, you know? But you can still explore big picture concepts of, like, the way humans are, what we are to ourselves and to each other. And this game uses a particular situation to really explore the idea of, like, what people are at their core, you know? And it has sort of an optimistic view on that. Not completely, but better than not. Our first note from Sheep. This is one of the more important bots. Oh. Texture glitch. Love those. Those could spook a player the first few times they happen. Sorry, I'm half reading this. Yeah, this is an interesting note from Sheep because he's trying to make sense of the world around him, and he comes up with two different ideas, both of which are true on a different level. The first idea, the true one in universe, is what you can infer from the context of the library, or like from what the library says and what the files within it tell you, that these are leftovers from a larger archive. But Sheep also supposes that they may have been placed there deliberately by design to sort of construct this world. In universe, the first one is true. These are the leftovers, what's left of the archive. But on a meta level, Sheep ends up being correct in saying that this was all deliberately constructed because this is, of course, a video game. And the only things that are in the archive are the things that we, the players, are meant to see. So it's kind of weird how that, or not weird, it's kind of neat. Oh, hey, here's a ghost. These show up sometimes too. And you can just watch them walk around. Sometimes they're trying to lead you somewhere. I'm not really sure where this one's leading me. There is an audio log there, and I do see it. Yeah, so I guess this one did lead us to the audio log, but this one's really hard to miss. Yeah, let's go ahead and listen to our first Alexandra audio log.
When I was a little girl, one of our teachers, Mrs. Higgins, told us to make a time capsule, write letters to the future, so one day we could remember what it was like to be children. I thought it was stupid, so I didn't do it, which I really regret. So, I guess I'm gonna make one now, bury it in the archive instead of under a tree. I don't know if anybody will ever find it, but somehow it seems important to keep talking, to keep thinking, for as long as I can.
And that first log kind of gets at the heart of like what Alexandra is trying to do, which is preserve herself and preserve, in a larger sense, humanity as much as she can. She's kind of assumed it both as a duty, but there's also a bit of a selfish element to it as well, because it is what she wants. She wants to, you know, in a sense, perpetuate her existence. Not literally, but in the sense of, you know, as long as she's remembered, as long as there's evidence she was here, she still matters, right? We'll have a lot of time to dig into what's going through Alexandra's head and analyze what she says both at face value and kind of dig a little deeper into it. The first time I played through this game, I kind of looked up to Alexandra, like I had an elevated image of her, and I was thinking of her as like a super cool, like, oh, here's the awesome person, kind of looking at her that way. But then, on my second playthrough, a few years later when I was older, and now looking back on it, I look at Alexandra less as a figure and more as a person, and so I have a different view of her. Back to the game. The title of this puzzle is a huge hint for how to solve it. It's called Suicide Mission. This switch will turn on the gun. Why do we want to turn on the gun? Well, you will have to experiment a little bit to figure out exactly how this works. But, as the title of the puzzle suggests, this mine is trying to move towards the gun, so what you can end up doing is have it launch a suicide attack, where it will blow up itself and the gun. I couldn't really think of a better way they could have tutorialized this, but I will admit it's not the most intuitive thing that you have to figure out on your own. Again, the title of the puzzle is a big hint. I don't think you could have done any better besides just spelling it out.
But your choices must be your own. Therefore, I will not guide you, unless it is necessary.
I will not guide you, says man who won't stop guiding me. More puzzles. The guards must be crazy. So yeah, we just gotta slip around this mine, grab the jammer. And this sort of reinforces the idea that the mines will just move in linear paths, and you can go around those paths. You're gonna have to find your window for it. And put up with a lot of beeping. So we slip past, grab one jammer. We have to use this one here. And this is a good time to double jam. So we can bring this jammer forward. And then what we'll have to end up doing in order to get through here is keep this mine on this side of the barrier so we can bring both jammers through. So we leave it open, keeping our distance from the mine, and it'll keep going that way in a straight line. Gotta move a little fast for this one. Get both jammers, close it off, and we're safe. Do we need both jammers? No, we only really needed the one. So yeah, the puzzles do get a little bit more difficult as it goes on. It's hard for me to gauge this difficulty in hindsight. This is interesting. Here's another table, another bed where presumably a bot could wake up. I wonder if that ever happens or if it's just kind of a aesthetic thing. Maybe Sheep had the experience of waking up in this world first, which I imagine was not the best experience. Alright, moving on to the next puzzle. I know there's another terminal in this world. I'll make sure to look at that before we move on. Hall of Windows. Right. The game also has already taught you about purple. Can't take anything through the purple. I just kind of did that automatically without talking about it. Another important puzzle feature, and one that you can learn to subvert as well. So you take that through, keep it jammed on the other side, so you can move this jammer to jam the other thing. Over there. Walk back through. And we progress. So yeah, another double jamming puzzle. Really locking in that idea. A. And now we're free to walk out. And is that every sigil? I think this one only has 3. Yep. 3, and I think there's a star around here somewhere, but I have no idea where that is off the top of my head. Alright, let's go find that other terminal. There it is. Beeping at us. And a no text QR code. That threw me off the first time I saw it, I think, or at least one of the times I saw it. I thought that was a glitch, but that is actually intentional. Error.log. I think that's more hex text. Again, I'm not going to decode it, but you are invited to. We do see it's something written by John Milton. I think this is from Paradise Lost. It's human machine, so more with this idea. Yeah, a question in like a philosophy textbook. Or I guess an email from a professor. Subject. And here's the first time where we get a perspective on like what's going on socially in the outside world, what's happening and how people are handling it. And I love this game's take on the end of the world, because I think at and before the time that this game came out, the most common view of it was like an end of the world scenario is one where everyone panics and everything breaks down quickly and collapse happens all at once. But this game imagines humans kind of just staying the same as they ever were, even knowing that the end is coming. They just kind of keep going, and the knowledge that everything is about to come crashing down doesn't really affect them. And as time has gone on, the more I've come to realize that this view of apocalypse really seems to hit it on the head. Like, unless there's some huge instant cataclysmic event, I think this is kind of accurate, that it is just going to be everyone keeps going until they don't anymore. And we keep getting these little windows into this end of the world scenario, and it's kind of moving just what this game imagines people become when they're facing the end of the road. There's a little bit of the worst in people, but mostly it shows them at their best. I think this game imagines that at its core, humanity is good. And I like that. That's not to say everyone is a good person, but I like the idea that everyone has the potential to be a good person. And when push comes to shove and there's nothing left to lose, the idea that most people will try to do the right thing. I like that, and that's kind of the theme that this game presents, the idea. So we're done with World 2. On to World 3. Our first red sigil. Ooh. Oh, Milton's talking to us again. Get ready. Question 1. Since only animals can be persons, a machine could never be a person. So he's looking for contradictions. And since I appear to be a machine and also appear to be a person, I have to broadly disagree. A person is under no authority other than that to which they consent. I like the idea behind this question, but as a matter of practicality, I have to disagree. The quality of life of persons ought to be maximized. Unambiguous, agree. Value is discovered. This is a bit of a tricky prompt because it's not totally clear at a glance what it means, unless you're like kind of familiar with this sort of discourse. The idea of like value is inherent to a thing versus value is what we assign to a thing. I guess I'll say broadly disagree. I'm not so sure. Yeah, I think Athena didn't really know how to handle that prompt. Persons deserve the talents they were born into. Deserving is a weird concept. The liberty of persons ought to be maximized. Also agree. And value is created, we'll agree with that. Press any key to exit. Where's the any key? AI feedback. Yeah, here's Alexandra having thoughts about artificial intelligence and getting shut down by the worst philosophy professor ever. In my experience, philosophy professors are the cool professors and would happily engage with an idea like this. So, Alexandra got stuck with a real crappy one. Good thing she didn't give up, because if she had, we wouldn't have this game. I know that's not true. I know the in-universe. Shut up. Here we get a list of some of the major figures on the project. Make a note of Trevor, because I played through the demo and it seems like he gets a little bit more attention in the sequel. Maybe it is just a little, but we saw a little bit of him. Also, the archive team lead is Arkady Chernyshevsky, who's apparently nice. I think we see more of him later, and I don't remember exactly what his deal is, but I do remember he is one of my favorite characters as far as the humans go. Little eccentric, if I recall correctly. Straton of Stagira was a Greek materialist philosopher. I don't think this is a real person. Much of his writing was lost in the destruction of the Library of Alexandria. Yeah, and the library in this game also is kind of analogous to the Library of Alexandria, in that most of it has been lost because the library got corrupted. Stashed for later. So let's see what we got going on now. Here's another press X to die moment. Don't pull that jammer. Unnecessary 360. Ooh, so this introduces the idea of using a key to open a door. Oh. Double guns. Gotta worry about those. I don't think we can skirt the perimeter on these ones. Actually, here's a fun fact about these guns. What matters is not how long you stand in front of them, but how much you move in front of them. I think that took me a while to realize. But yeah, you can stand here with it beeping at you the whole time. All that matters is how much of a movement you make in front of it. So I'm going to move out of here. And that, from a game design perspective, makes sense because it's kind of preventing you from cheesing the machine guns by sprinting before they get a chance to shoot you. Since it's based solely on distance, you can't really get around it that way. Here's the keys. And we open up this door, grab our jammer, and now we can do the puzzle. Double jam so we can get our jam. And cannot jam through a fence, so you do need to maneuver around the mines here. But we can jam one. I think that's going to bump into our jammer. Yep. I say we. I know I'm the only one playing. It's the royal we. Both guns jammed, the sigil within reach. Yeah, I'm gonna go world by world, go in order, and get all the colorful sigils as we go. I think we just saw another graphical glitch. I wasn't paying too close attention. Have I walked past any QR codes? I probably have. I want to try to scan as many of those as we can, so we can read them, because I love these little flashes of character we get from them. Something's jamming this gun. Okay. So we have a whole double jam sequence here that we have to go through to liberate all these jammers. So we double jam this while that's still jammed so we can get this jammer. Then we can pull this one out, and then we can pull this one, and that's fine. And then it all blows up. So now with 3 jammers, we can do basically anything. Double jam to bring our jammers through. Jam the gun. Jam this gun. Okay, now we get a little tricky here. Double jam this gun to bring this one through. To double jam this gun to bring this one through. And now we can pull this one safely. Oh, and there's the sigil. Oh, and there's the star. Okay. Cool. So yeah, mastery of the jammers gets you your first star. That one was pretty easy. Again, mainly because I knew what I was doing and was practicing, you know, maximum jammer habits. Nice. So yeah, the star sigils are basically if you can go a level beyond with the puzzles and also with the world, because a lot of them are hidden in the overworld outside the puzzles. Basically, they're your little reward for demonstrating you can use these mechanics to your fullest, to their fullest. And there is a secret ending if you get all the star sigils and do some secret puzzles tied to them. And I'll move on with the puzzles for now, but I'll talk more about that ending later. Again, I'm not going for it. I am going to... I guess I'll take a quick trip to, like, the basic ending, and then I'll do the true ending. But I won't do the super secret hard ending. But I'll talk about it. Ooh, I remember this puzzle gave me a really hard time when I first did it. Let's see how much I remember. Yeah, here's one with Faith realizing that things are hard sometimes. A hard lesson I had to learn as well. Step one for any puzzle is to make sure you have all your resources assembled. So look around, see if there's anything you can collect, anything you can use. Look at all the space that's available to you and see what your options are. My first thought is, can I pull that jammer from up on that ledge down? I think I can, but I'll make sure I can. Then the smart thing to do would be to use that barrier to trap this mine. It's a good thing we had that concept nailed in. Yep, we can grab the jammer. Crack this open. And make this mine into a non-entity. We see the sigil floating in the distance, enticing us. And yeah, now this guy's no longer a problem. I say guy, mines are gender neutral. As I believe are many of the bots, although maybe they do have gender. I think it depends, it varies. We can hop down over to this side. We'll need a key to get through there, and we'll need some jamming to get through there safely. So yeah, this is easily the most complicated puzzle available to us so far. But the solution will come to me. Oh, okay. So just as we pulled it from on high before, we can also pull it from on low. Set it up right here, and then we can bring it around to the other side. I'm remembering. So yeah, this is the first puzzle, I probably said this already, that makes you pay attention to elevation. Then we have to navigate this little labyrinth, making sure we don't explode. Shouldn't be too hard. Key in hand, don't explode. I am playing on controller, and I'm used to playing on keyboard and mouse. I do think I prefer keyboard and mouse, but controller works perfectly fine. I'm used to playing shooters and such with controller. Here's a problem. Okay. I think I see what's going on here. This is probably what took me forever to figure out. Oh, oh darn. Okay. That it'll take that course. That's something you kind of have to experiment to figure out. That that's the route it'll take, and that you can use it like that. Very rewarding puzzle to solve the first time, but also I remember very frustrating. I think I actually used a messenger on it, and the messenger was no help whatsoever. Yeah. Press X to seek counsel.
Here, those Those who are worthy may seek the counsel of my blessed messengers, but their wisdom shall not be given easily, for your accomplishments must be your own.
Ooh, maybe it responds to like how much progress you've made through the puzzle. I haven't really experimented with it all that much. That would actually be really cool that the hint is based on how far along you are and the game keeps track of that. But in my experience playing through the game for the first time, I never really found the messengers all that helpful. And you get 3 of them in the whole game, and they are a pain to unlock in the first place. Oh, QR codes. Sheep has a lot of questions. Oh, hey, I left this before. Oh, a paint bucket. I can leave another message. Yeah, this is a cool thing you can stumble upon. So where do you want to leave a bit of paint? Another QR code. Doesn't do anything. I'll leave one right outside here. Outside the red. The truth is hidden in the words, but it's up to you to find it. Read. Think. That feels like an Athena kind of line. Alright, one more sigil. Locked me up, swallowed the key. Oh look, it's another key puzzle. I hope we don't have to take that literally. Don't want to dissect a mine. Oh, key. Easy. Too easy. What the? Oh. Sure, why not? I was a little baffled by how straightforward that was. Like, really? It's that easy? Okay. We do a double jam. Life is good. And sigil. First time we have to take a ladder out. Ladders work exactly as you expect them to. Oh hey, it's a robot. What's up? Ooh, someone's using the terminal. And they dissolved. Download our profile. Yeah, let's see our user profile. What is this, my horoscope? Display complex. I love this assertion. Users sought to maximize both liberty and quality of life, but these ideas are incompatible. Interesting that Milton is definitely not an anarchist. Basic account privileges only. Due to outstanding notes on your account, and despite displaying many of the characteristics of being a person, you cannot be granted admin status at this time. In the meantime, please enjoy basic account functionalities. Oh, I see what's happening. I've been noticing a weird sound glitch. It's because when I press right on the D-pad, that's what I have bound to fast forward. So the sound cuts out momentarily because it fast forwards for a split second. I'll have to rebind that because I use the D-pad in these menus. Log a support ticket. Account certification error. Awesome. Ooh, I wonder if I can access the comm portal. What a shame. Yeah, Milton's just trolling. Kind of slowly leading you along. I think this is one of the more complicated stars. There's a whole sequence here. You have these buttons you can push. There's a code you get from like one of the QR pages, and you have to decipher it, and then there's a whole thing. I'm not gonna do it. But it goes to show like the lengths to which the game will go to challenge you for the super special stuff. We're gonna unlock our first puzzle component, and this will end up being a very important one. I think I just messed that up. Yeah, let's reconfigure this. There we go. Unlocked connectors. That's a cool animation.
There is much that you may learn in the halls of my temples, for there is much that you do not know. That is why you are a child. But children are made to learn, and in time they come to have dominion over the lands of their home. So it shall be with you and your generations.
And like any child, we're gonna have a rebellious phase. And World 4 is full of connector puzzles, so the game strongly encourages you to get those yellow sigils before you move on. And we'll move on in just a second.